job.
Daniel has this habit of stretching out in the grass like he doesn't have a single worry in the world. He'll lie there while I'm gardening, soaking up the sun. Then, without any warning, he'll jump up, sprint to a nearby tree, and scratch the trunk with surprising enthusiasm. Every time he does it, I still find myself smiling.
You enjoying it out here? Yeah.
The funny thing is, if you heard him before you saw him, you'd probably imagine a very old cat. His meows are rough and crackly, like an elderly man clearing his throat. And in a way that fits, Daniel is 20 years old.
Good morning. What are you doing? Did you have a good night?
People like to call him the Benjamin Button cat because he seems to be aging backward. When I first met him, I honestly didn't think he'd be around very long. I work at a veterinary clinic, and Daniel came in when he was 18. He had spent most of his life as a barn cat. The woman who brought him in was worried about a severe limp and wasn't sure what else could be done for him. She gently explained that if nobody could help him or give him a home, putting him down might be the kindest option. Meanwhile, Daniel was completely unbothered. He sat there making biscuits the entire time. I remember looking at him and thinking, well, that's that. I told her not to worry because I'd found him a home. Mine.
You're dirty.
Even then, he seemed incredibly calm, but he also looked fragile. He was thin, sickly, and honestly, I worried he wouldn't survive the coming winter.
Very good.
So we started small. I got him a comfortable bed, a cat tower, some supplements, nothing dramatic. Just the basics he needed.
Oh, my jumps. Don't tell him he can't.
Little by little, things began to change. He started gaining weight. His energy improved. Months later, I began taking him outside with me. At first, he'd simply relax nearby while I worked in the yard. Then one day, he took off running. I remember stopping what I was doing and just staring. A few months earlier, I'd been worried about whether he'd even make it through winter. Now he was racing across the yard toward a tree like he had somewhere important to be. Watching him in that moment felt like looking at a completely different cat. Something about being outside seemed to bring him to life. Even if he only got an hour outdoors each day, he was thrilled. It became his favorite part of the routine. Eventually, he started coming to work with me every day. He'd curl up on a desk and nap while everyone went about their business. It felt like he'd settled into exactly the life he was meant to have. For a while, everything seemed perfect. Then the limp came back. The news wasn't encouraging. Several veterinarians believed he would never walk normally again, but nobody had apparently explained that to Daniel. He refused to quit. We switched him to a brace, and before long, he was walking with it. Then he was grooming himself again. Day by day, he carried on as though nothing had happened. That's been one of the most remarkable things about him. No matter what challenge shows up, he just keeps moving forward.
You got things to say? Okay. You need some kisses?
These days, his biggest complaint is the weather. If it's snowing or freezing outside, he gets downright grumpy because he can't go out. When I pick him up and bring him indoors, he'll flatten his ears in protest as if he's deeply offended by the decision. And honestly, I understand.
Oh, the weather's yucky again? Yeah. And we have to stay inside because it's cold.
A couple of years ago, I wasn't sure he'd make it to Christmas. Then I hoped maybe he'd see one more. Now he's passed both of those expectations and continues to surprise everyone. He's become this happy little guy who finds joy in the simplest things: a patch of grass, a nap at work, an hour outside.
You're a good boy.
Watching him has changed me too. Daniel is the reason I've started thinking seriously about creating a rescue for unwanted senior animals, a place where they can be safe, comfortable, and cared for. Because if there's one thing he's taught me, it's that sometimes the animals people overlook still have a lot of living left to do.